And so when meditation came up, it was like, well, I don't like sitting in lotus. And one of my teachers was like, well, why don't you just lie down? I was like, what? You can lie down? Like this is like great news. Why do we wait for external permission all the time, right? Like, what is meditation? Presence, being aware, connection to your breath. Is it really stillness, or can it actually be something that we take on while we're moving?
Hello, ladies. Welcome back to another episode of Menopause Reimagined. Today, I have on one of my favorite people, and we are talking about changing our lives now that we're in perimenopause and menopause. What excites you? What motivates you? We talk about women supporting women and just had a great conversation about being in this phase of life and what does that mean? How do we show up for ourselves and for others around us? But before I introduce today's guest, I want to do a quick intro to who I am. My name is Andrea Donsky. I'm a nutritionist for more than 20 years. I'm a published menopause researcher, and I'm the co-founder of wearemorphus.com, a company that empowers you to take control of your health and symptoms now that you're in perimenopause and menopause. And talking about symptoms, if you are looking for high quality, third party tested supplements, please look no further, as our product line, Morphus, has incredible high quality products that can help you with your symptoms and overall health. And as a menopause researcher, I would love you to fill out our surveys. I put a link below if you haven't done so already. We have 15 of them on our website and more of them coming up really soon. Today, I'm speaking with Lisa Borden. She's a trusted advisor and mentor to purpose-driven entrepreneurs and curious thinkers since she founded her business in 1994. With decades of experience, Lisa delivers both high-touch advisory services and self-guided support, empowering people to discover their potential, optimize their efforts, and create success that's not just measurable, but deeply meaningful. Lisa is known for prioritizing radical transparency and trust and always showing up with an unwavering commitment to helping turn someday hopes and dreams into reality. Now, here's Lisa. Welcome back to Menopause Reimagined, Lisa.
Thank you for having me. I'm always so happy to be in conversation with you.
Well, I love having you too. And we're going to chit chat today. We're going to chit chat about purpose, about living our best life as we go into perimenopause and menopause. And I actually want to start because you and I are good friends and I know your story, but I would love you to start with your story about how you have been living over the last few years.
Well, where do I even start with that? So it's like, oh, you asked for the story. Is this the 7 hour version or this 7 second version? Um, I have three kids who are 25, 23, and 18. And I say now I have an open nest. It's not an empty nest, it's an open nest. So we all flow back and forth. I love when they come home, but they're not home, which is in Toronto, Canada. And so my husband and I purchased a camper van, and we don't live in it full time, but we have driven Toronto to Baja, Mexico. And then I live and work down here during the winter. I'm a much happier person. That's the story. I'm a much happier person because I think we're all sun powered. I'm definitely sun powered. And even being inside all day, I work 7 days a week. I am balanced and grounded, and my electric health is great. I feel amazing. So it's empowering.
So I love that in openness. The thing I love about you, Lisa, and I've said this several times that because you've been here, this is I think your third time or fourth time. I mean, I think maybe our fourth time me interviewing you, but third time on my podcast because you were on our summit. And I credit you for coming up with our name, Morphus. When we were trying to figure out what to call our company, we had a meeting with you because you're a brilliant, I mean, when you working with entrepreneurs, I mean, you really have a gift, and you helped us come up with our name Morphus. So thank you for that. And I know I always want to give credit where credit is due. So I love that we merged metamorphosis with us as a community, and that's how we came up with Morphus. And that
And
was
us,
your,
and us as you being awesome, like honoring yourselves, right?
yeah, exactly. So thank you for that. And now Morphus has been around since 2021, which is really cool. And I think so you have the openness, and I like that. But one thing you're really good at too is coming out with ways to name things. Like so from like you just said, like it's not, an empty nest, it's an open nest. And you have this gift to be able to do so.
Well,
So
I didn't create that one.
okay.
I didn't create that one. I love that one. I don't even
Okay.
remember. It's a thing. Like it's a thing out there. I think if you Google it, I don't know who actually it's an ode to, but I love that because see, what it did though was it made you think like, oh, that's so different. And so if
So
it piques your
different.
curiosity and it makes you think, then it's amazing. But I do love coining things. Yes.
You do. So you coined unmeditation.
Yeah.
Okay. So I refer to that all the time. So whenever I'm interviewing a guest or in my book, in Nourishing Menopause, I talk about you in a couple of places and I credit you for coming up and coining the term unmeditation. And when I first interviewed you several years ago and you mentioned that word, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is me." So maybe describe what unmeditation is and how women, because we're told, so let me just preface it with we know we're more stressed as we go into perimenopause and menopause. My published research shows that 66% of us are more stressed now than before, and we're less able to cope with it. So, how
Yeah.
does unmeditation fit into that?
Okay. Well, is this the 7 hour version now? Um,
You
so
take
the
your time and as much time as you need.
um, so I just have to go back a little bit because you bring up business development, which I've been doing since 1994. And I said, I think I'm doing the exact same thing in 2026, but it's entirely different. And it's because we learn as we go. And one of the things is we seem to in society really saturate words and terms and hang on to them. So, natural came out and natural was all the rage, right? People are like, I want natural foods.
Yeah,
And then natural got bastardized.
yeah,
And then eco-friendly came out, right? And that's bad. And then green living. Like there's been all these phases, and we have to keep sort of moving on. In marketing, it's not what I want to say, it's what you need to hear to take action, right?
yeah,
And so packaging something is so important. And so when I started helping clients build their content and be influencers before there was any, this was before social media. It was just when there was blogs. And everyone kept saying to me, my clients would say to me, "Oh, you make it sound so simple. You don't have one." And I was like, "Oh, you're right. Like thank you for calling me on my shit. I have to embody my work." But I didn't want to be a blogger because bloggers did not do it. Like I'm a consultant. I'm not a blogger. I don't want to confuse those. And everyone was becoming bloggers. And so I called it an unblog because I was like, I need somewhere to say what I want to say. I need somewhere to embody my work. I need somewhere to show my clients
yeah.
that as a small business, as a mom of three, that I can do this, then you can. I can't, all these consultants and coaches who, tell you what to do, but they're not embodying their work. Why? That doesn't make sense. So I'm like, okay, I'm up for the challenge, but I'm going to rename it an unblog so you don't mistake me. I don't want to be lumped in with that. And not as a negative thing, but just I don't want to lose
Who you are.
my who I am as a
Yeah,
consultant. And so when meditation came up, it was like, well, I don't like sitting in lotus. And one of my teachers was like, "Well, why don't you just lie down?" I was like, "What? You can lie down? Like this is like great news. Why do we wait for external permission all the time, right? Like what is meditation? Presence, being aware, connection to your breath. Is it really stillness, or can it actually be something that we take on while we're moving? There's a moving meditation. And so I realized I was just going to market something, and I'm not a meditation expert and I'm not a breath expert, but these are things that I practice. And I also realize working with, I'm going to use the term a zillion entrepreneurs because I'm not good at numbers and I don't know if it's 50 or 250 in what time zone. Um, I work with so many people and none of us were meditators.
Hmm.
All of us with purpose-driven lives and businesses. And how do you honor yourself and how do you rest and how do you parent and how do you work and how do you exist in this crazy wild world without meditation? But I didn't want people to think that meant that I was now going to start teaching you to sit in lotus and be still. And so on meditation just was the same as that on blog, which is it's just my own version of it. And I'm not an expert. I'm somebody practicing it. I want to package it up so you are interested. And I remember you being like, oh, I'm curious on that because meditation's not for me, but maybe on meditation is,
Totally.
and giving you that permission to close your eyes and 30 seconds of being in the sunlight and closing your eyes and saying, well, okay, that's on meditation. You felt, you smiled. I remember your energy being like, oh my God, I actually did it. So why can't we give ourselves permission and also celebrate wins,
Yeah.
being perfectly imperfect with whatever it is? I don't need to operate on someone else's term or practice. I want to learn all those terms and practices, and I want to incorporate them in a way that suits me. And
Hmm.
I don't need somebody, an expert, which I believe we all are and no one is. Why that's not right. Well, if I'm working with my nervous system and gargling is my meditation, mm, why are we letting somebody else say that's right or not right or good or not good? I want someone to say, have you considered this, to build on that or to consider this, or why are you doing that? But yeah.
I
So
love that you even remember how I responded because ever since that time that I like that we talked about it, it's been like always at the forefront of my mind of like, okay, how am I unmeditating? Because for me to sit in lotus or just to sit for a half an hour, it can be difficult for me for my monkey mind. And but it isn't difficult for me to sit and journal and say my morning mantras and take a walk and repeat mantras or take a walk and visualize certain things. So it was like as if it was like this kind of this door open for me to be like, because I always said, oh, I'm not a meditator, I'm not a meditator. And
yeah.
then all of a sudden I was like, well, now I'm an unmeditator. And it definitely, and I try to do it on a regular basis. I'm always repeating mantras. It's just who I am and what I do on a daily basis. Some days I have more time to sit and to actually journal. Other days I just say a quick mantra. Like it depends on what my day is like. But I love that you coined this term because it does allow a lot of us to look at it in a different way.
Yeah. And that's it's evolved to be a part of something that I built, like the self-care snack studio that's inside my online community. And self-care is now, when I started that, self-care felt so good. Instead of meditation, I'm taking care of myself.
Mm.
Not I'm going to book an expensive massage. It's like, here's something like the little things are the big things. And I have shared over 200 self-care snacks, many of which are on meditations that are 2 minutes or less. This is not like a big deal. But if you don't know about them, you can't practice them.
So talk about your community because TWIC, which I'm a part of and have been since I think you started. And I would love you to talk about what that is and how you show up for your community every single day.
Okay. Is this the 7 hour version? This is like, oh my God. Um, the Wellness Intelligence Collective is 5 years old as of this week, actually.
Birthday.
So I started my business in 1994, and everything that I learned along the way, anytime I found a gap or something I wasn't doing well enough or a pattern with my clients, I would like, what's the solution? And along the way, I wrote a children's book on, trying new things, and there's no such thing as a picky eater. I wrote a book called The Alphabet of Avoidance, which is in 2010. And I self-published it in 2010, where that was like this big deal, right? And then I started a Shabbat candle company because I couldn't find Shabbat candles that weren't petroleum based with wicks that had heavy metal in them. And I was like, we're sitting around a dinner table with the people we love the most, and we're polluting our air and polluting ourselves. So I looked online and it's like, oh, there's $40 handmade beautiful ones, or there's for $5, I get 72. Well, what about like the
In the
in
mid.
between, that
Yeah.
nuance space? So I sourced and I got organic wicks, no heavy metals. I got beeswax. I learned that beeswax is often, it says hand dipped beeswax, but it can be a candle from China that's just hand dipped in the United States. And then you can label that as anything. And that honey and that beeswax from China is not something that is better. So I kept realizing we're spending more money for something that we think is better, and it's not. Like, it's not better. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to create that candle. So I created the candles. And then I learned about dryer balls. Dryer balls reduce your dryer time. So you're saving electricity and you're reducing your static, and how great. But most of them are plastic. And so if you're bouncing plastic around in heat, think of all those microplastics that you're adding to your clothes. Then you're wearing it, your workout clothes, your skin's your largest organ. I need to find a dryer ball that's not plastic. Oh, it doesn't exist except for this nice woman on Etsy that I found before Etsy was huge. So I messaged her. I'm like, hey, like, where do you get your wool from? She's like, who are you? What? So then I learned about wool and sourcing wool and how cruel that can be, but not from an animal rights standpoint of being angry, but like, where can I find kind wool? And then I found this woman who was so excited about her sheep that she shears and she makes this wool. And you realize how the energy that comes through. So I bought wool from her. None of this stuff can be scaled. I'm a business development consultant. Do you know what it's like to be stuck where you're like, I make money for people, I help people make money. And in consumer product goods, basically, if it can be scaled, it's not something that I want and can honor. And the supply chain of everything is so fascinating, and we can learn so much. So I'm getting to my point is, along the way, I started all these other businesses, and my clients were people who cared and got this stuff. And so I found them to be the most incredible people. And the thing that all these brands and people have in common is they don't like to talk about themselves. They're the best. They're the products that we need to know about. They're the people we need to know about. Think of how many more people are so much more popular than you because they've afforded an agency or they have more followers or whatever it is. But we need to listen to voices like Andrea Donsky more. But you're like, oh, I don't like doing that. I don't like, I'm humble or whatever it happens to be. So I started interviewing my clients to give them, this was before everybody interviewed everybody. And I would just interview them to try and extract more than a bio on their About Me page. And so I had all these amazing but disconnected parts. And when we went into lockdown in 2020, I was sitting on this gold mine of self-care practices and interviews with good humans that I called mosquitoes. You were one of them. Originally, everyone has good things to say. I have these dryer balls, I have these candles. I'm a kids author, I'm an adult author. I've written a grade 4 and 5 curriculum because I'm a creative. That's what I'm, a creative, and I like solutions. And so I decided, oh, I have all this free time now in lockdown. No one can come in for consults. Everything went virtual. I don't have children's programs to run to. We just had so much more time. So I took up learning more about myself, and I decided I'm going to make this easy. I'm going to put all of my projects together into one place, because instead of, for my clients, being a concierge, like you would hire me to help you name your business and grow a business, but you'd be like, by the way, what kind of paint can I use in my kitchen? And so I'd be like, oh, here's the lesson on VOCs. Here's the lesson on what's in paint. Here's where to find good paint. And by the way, tell Bob that I sent you and he'll give you a good deal.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't charging for that, and that was taking over my life. So all of that went into the Wellness Intelligence Collective, where I decided 8 dimensions of wellness. I'm not a specialist in anything. I can personal train someone. I'm certified in that. I've taken my tapping certification, meditation, breathing. I,
It all.
I've taken auricular chromotherapy, Reiki. I've learned all sorts of things in order because that's how I learn.
Yeah.
And I just want to introduce people to the person where not all Reiki practitioners are created equal. You don't want someone for $9.99 online. Not all menopause support is the same. Here's what you can look at. Not all magnesium is the same. And I started writing, not all honey is created equal. Not all website creators are created equal. Not no matter what you were looking for,
Yeah.
I started writing. So I opened the Wellness Intelligence Collective to help everybody connect dots. You're really good at meditation. What are you doing about food and diet? You're really good with food and diet. What are you doing with mental emotional health? You're really good at mental and emotional health. What are you doing about your spiritual wellness, your spiritual well being? What about environmental or financial, your relationships? And so with that, I brought all of these projects together, I put them in, and that's what I do best, which is packaging something and working to share it and not charging for it. Um, I don't call it free anymore because I've learned that my work is not free. My work is of great value, but I want to offer it without any financial requirement because in this day and age, wellness is now one of those words that we've bastardized. And so you enter without financial requirement. There is an upgraded level where you get access to some of my deep life's work and my weekly live sessions, but otherwise everyone has access. Everyone has access to each other and to these resources, not only mine, but yours, your story, anything that I spend my own money to curate products. There's no pay for play. I have no ads. I have no AI. I have no algorithms. I have no pop-ups. That's not the way it works. It's you come and scrolling is good for you. So it's less of a dopamine hit, but the right dopamine when you get it.
And authentic.
Did I
And
answer the question? I don't even know.
you did. You did a great job. No, and it is, and it's so true because you are good at so many different things. So how do you curate it into one place that allows people to have access to it? And talk about your weekly breaks because that's every Wednesday at
Yeah.
noon, and you come on for a half an hour, which I will be on in May, and I'm very
Yep.
excited
Will
about it.
be. Yep.
Yeah. And so talk a little bit about that and how you have incredible guests that come on. It's short, so half an hour, so it's not very long, and how you bring people together in that capacity.
Everything's short in TWIC. TWIC stands for the Wellness Intelligence Collective. The reason why it's short is because I believe that all of us work and live according to what we need as well. Um, I would love to listen to, 42 different podcasts every week, but like an uninterrupted hour to listen, and it's hard, right? How many people are going to listen to this whole interview, right? Do people get bored? Do they switch off? I'm guilty of that myself. So when I started putting things together, I realized I wanted everything to be snack size, which is why I came up with exercise snacks, self-care snacks, which are on meditations. And on Wednesdays, I realized people really live connection, even if it's on Zoom is so great. And so every Wednesday, I've missed one. And I was on an island off grid camping, and I think that's in over 4 years.
Wow.
And so I plan my life around it. I love it. Never has it felt a burden, not when I'm feeling like shit, not what nothing.
Amazing.
And most of the time I have a guest, not all the time. Sometimes people are stuck listening to me rant or rave about something. But I try not to do that to people too often. And we just talk about one, I call it like a micro subject because everything feels very overwhelming in
Oh
the
yeah.
world at large. And so we hear things like glyphosate is screwing with our hormones. And like if you try and look into that and pull at threads, best wishes, right? Like I wouldn't even be able to. And are you getting into science then of soil health? Like, where do you learn? So instead, it's like, why is there paraquat in your oatmeal? And how do you buy oatmeal without it? And then you hear a little about something from somebody who's friendly and willing to take the time to explain. And there's a solution. The call to action is easy. And people know that they can show up and they might be so advanced in the subject, but they love the connection and the conversation. They can sometimes add to it, which they get to because the chat is like always alive. So if I'm talking about hormones and doing something, obviously you're not there even as a guest, you're there as someone participating. Think of how amazing it is that somebody's in your company and then there's a million of you. So if I can just have 25 of those people showing up every week, we all win. And so the breaks have all different topics. Sometimes we move, sometimes we breathe, sometimes we learn a different breath. Um, I always say to people, I try not to tell them what the subject is because I don't want them not coming because it's not a subject they're interested in. Because a lot of the time, we talk about something that might not sound interesting, but it's the person and the energy it's delivered with, and it's the joke that somebody makes, and it's the question somebody else asks that ignites us. So everyone has a different takeaway. Last week we spoke about the energetics of hair. We've had a doctor from Mexico City whose father founded biomagnetism. We speak about light diet, just things, and it's not about, I mean, it sounds like an infomercial sometimes that I joke about. This is not an infomercial. We've talked about beef sticks and like what's wrong with collagen casing, things that you don't hear about because products on shelf don't talk.
Right.
Sometimes there's discounts, sometimes we've done things where the person's like sent everyone who's shown up chaga from his forest, right? Like just kind human stuff. So it's really, that's what we do every single week. And some people come every single week and some people come when they can. Some people are teachers and they come all summer, but it's not
Depends on
formal.
your schedule and
Not
what you do.
formal. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think and that's the thing too that's interesting is that it's unique and different information. And you could take what you want from it and leave what you don't, right? And I
That's
think it's about learning and learning new things. And I think that, especially at this stage of life, is a good thing because keeping our
absolutely.
brain active and connecting like that, it's so much about community and connecting. Like you're always like, oh, I'll connect you with this one and I'll connect you with this one because you're part of Twix. So for me, I am super grateful for what you do. And I love that you're a connector and love to bring like, and I love that you also say good humans because, and why don't you define what that means?
Well, I was called out by one of my teachers actually for calling them good humans because he's like, don't label people that way. Everyone's a human. And I was like, oh, I feel some shame and guilt around that. But I really feel it's like one of my sayings is be a kind human. But when I feature one good human every week, and a good human to me is just it's so simple to be good. I just think it's well intentioned. Here's a well intentioned, imperfectly perfect human. We don't glorify people in TWIC as like, you're better than me or you're the expert and I'm not because we're all peers.
Yeah.
And, you know, somebody had joined who was not in shape and not in wellness, was like just wanted to learn about hydration. And she came in and she was just like, there was no shame for her or guilt, but somebody who actually teaches about structuring water, who knows more than anybody that I ever know. can talk about is also in there.
Yeah.
They're both good humans because they're curious. And to me, if you're curious and you have good intention when you wake up in the morning, you're a good human. And that's why I always say everybody has a story to tell. So although you will read an interview with someone like you who has hundreds of thousands of followers, there's also somebody who's not even on social media. I'm
Hmm.
not writing about it to gain attention and to harvest
Yeah.
attention from people. I'm doing it because you have a story to tell and it's more than menopause. It's more than your work. It's more than your book.
Yeah.
I want to know things like, like what do you suck at? Like we need to find common ground in what we suck at too, because that gives us permission. We all need permission.
And it's being vulnerable too. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's I'm always the first one to say that I know what I know and I don't know what I don't know, and I will tell you that I don't know. And I don't pretend to know. I just had a conversation this morning actually with somebody, and we were saying that I was saying like I don't talk outside my lane and I don't pretend to know things that
Yeah.
I really don't, and nor would I want to. Like, go to somebody who actually that's what they do on a regular basis. Like, you
Yeah.
want to speak to someone who's an expert, or who knows more than I do. I'm a lifetime learner. I'm an avid learner. And if I'm not learning, I'm not happy. I love to learn. I love to
Yep.
research. Like, that's just,
Unlearning and unlearning too, right?
and whoa, I'm learning big time,
Yeah.
big time. Because, and yeah. So to me, I just feel like that's doing the work. And I know you and I have very similar
Doing the work.
philosophy. Yeah, doing the work. I
Yeah.
mean, you and I have very similar philosophy. We've had many conversations about
Yeah.
doing the work and working on ourselves. And I feel like we're always a work in progress. And like you said, perfectly imperfect. And doing what we can to get to help ourselves improve and however that looks for you.
Yeah. However that looks for you. And so when there's no program, like as in you start here, you're going to lose 10 pounds, or you're going to start here and you're going to get off sugar, or you're going to start here and
Yeah.
you're going to have the most mobile ankles in the world. Like those are all great, but my goal is to actually also curate who's teaching you mobility, who's teaching you diet, and asking those questions. And so one of the things a good human needs to do is actually have transparency to their work and answer questions. So if I message a brand and I ask them for their testing on their cacao and they ghost me after they
Your
check out
answer.
who I am,
There's
that's
your
my
answer.
answer. And
Yeah.
so that's why I teach something called empathy economics, another term that I've coined. And it's my goal is I can tell you what to buy in terms of that candle, right? No problem. You ask me like, hey, Lise, where can I get? As a friend, it's like here. But what I really want you to do is understand what makes a candle great versus, oh, that's something that I would want to be aware of. Same for a shower curtain,
Mm.
same for a window cleaner, same for an apple, same for a doctor or a healer. And so empathy economics teaches us that. So the work showing up in TWIC actually compounds that my goal is to make sure that you don't need to ask me what candle to buy and click on an affiliate code. That serves nobody. What I want to do is so much bigger than that, where I want you to be a carrier of that wellness intelligence. So you don't need to keep coming back to me. You now carry it forward to other people to say, by the way, whenever you're buying a candle, make sure you ask about the wick and the source of the wax.
Hmm.
Here's what hexanes are, right? If you learn about hexanes, all of this sounds overwhelming if you have to learn it at once. But we learn something every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in TWIC. And guess what? There's no catching up. You start where you start, wherever you are.
Yeah.
If you're ready, it's not overwhelming because you just have to keep showing up like anything. And that's what people were like, always say, oh, it's another platform. And I'm like, really? You started on Instagram. The first time you went on Instagram, did you really understand what you needed to do? And then when they started doing stories, did you know? Like, we have to figure all these things out. The first time you had to make family dinner, the first time you were going to breastfeed, the first time like you're doing anything, you beginner's mindset. And so I this shirt is one of my designs, but my favorite one says I'm not for everyone. I'm not for everyone. And that's fine. But the people that show up in Twic and keep showing up, they're good humans. I label them as such because I mean, I get to journey with them. I enjoy their company. And they have we serve each other's purpose. And that's the whole thing is the best deal is where everybody wins, right? Everybody wins.
Everybody wins. I love it.
Yeah.
Can you just explain what your shirt says? Because for those who are listening on our podcast.
Oh, it says doubt, except for the U, B, and T are crossed out and it's remaining as do. And I think if you're wearing a shirt, like wear it like you mean it. Start a conversation. They make people smile. I have one that says be a kind human. I have one that says question everything. And the best is I get like winks and high fives and
I love
the
it.
I'm not for everyone gets the most conversation going. People love that one.
I'm not for everyone, but
Yeah,
it's true.
it's
Nobody.
true. None of us are.
You actually said something, two things that I want to touch on. You said when we're ready. That was something that you had said, like in terms of learning and joining the platform, it's when we're ready. Because how does that work if somebody's not ready, or what makes somebody ready?
Well, it's so individual. So I can say that, somebody listening to me can be like, oh, she knows so much stuff. Well, we all know so much stuff in what we immerse ourselves in every day, right?
Yeah.
And so I can say I've always been curious and I grew up with the privilege of being educated and knowing stuff. I always thought like I know stuff and like you brought up the more you learn, the more you realize you know nothing.
Yeah.
And that's exciting to me, whereas some people aren't ready for that to be exciting. That's overwhelming.
Right.
And that's okay. They're not ready for Twic because Twic blows a lot of truths out there. And you have to be willing to change your life. So when I explain what a shower curtain's doing or what that bathtub cleaner is doing. Or if I bring up something that might be invisible to you, right? Right now, that could be a toothpaste, but it could also be how your dentist deals with you. It could be anything about any kind of, you have to be willing to be like, oh, I'm wrong. I'm not doing something in my best interest. Holy fuck, this is a huge disaster, but I'm supported. What can I do about it to move forward better? And a lot of people aren't ready for that. That doesn't make them bad because 25 years ago, when I had my first kid, he had a plastic tray on his high chair, and I Lysol wiped the crap out of that thing because I was a good mom and I was keeping him safe. I I took pharma, I ate Cheese Whiz. These were all my first line things. I've just learned as I go, like anybody. And because of my energy and who I am, I'm all in. So I started to learn. That's a whole other story that people can learn about me another time. But I was thrown into this because of my daughter's wellness and health. And when you have no option but to learn, there's a huge catalyst there. And most of us, unfortunately, wait until there's a crisis or chaos that forces us to learn. And so, what I've done with Twic is the doors are open for whenever you're ready. And maybe that means, holy shit, I have something wrong with my lymph. I want help. I'm going to go into Twic and there's going to be solutions. I can crowdsource in there. It's quote unquote safe, which is a whole other thing that we can talk about that what the hell that word means. But there's answers and there's trust. It's a high trust community and it's my living archive of stuff that I've shared. And you have to be ready for it because along with the thing that you're looking for, there's a whole bunch of things that you're not prepared for. We've had many wellness intelligence breaks where we're all on Zoom and we have somebody speaking and all of us are like lean in and you can see. And then it's like, okay, I'm never buying that again. Like, right? Those moments, and you have to be wanting aha moments. That's what being
Yeah.
needed is, I
I
guess.
mean, having come from the health and wellness space, I like as you're speaking, I'm like, yep, that's what I've been doing for 26 years. Like
Yeah.
it's, like kind of being ahead like, in terms of understanding certain things. And, sometimes you get the, oh, you're so extreme. And other times you're like, oh, tell me more. Right. And I remember
Yeah.
initially when I started in natural and organic, and we're going to use the word natural loosely.
Yeah. Because that's
Exactly.
what it was. That's what
Yeah.
it was, though.
When we started there, and I started there in 2000, I remember like even in my own family, my sister-in-law, it was like I was over I was over the top. I went back to school to become a nutritionist. I was understanding my body. And for that's who I've been for so long. And now, funny enough, I've now kind of come around to the other end of like, okay, I do what I do. I have certain absolutes, non-negotiables, and then other things I've been like, okay, like I'm going to be a little bit more relaxed on this. And these are my choices. And I was just talking to my husband this morning about something. It has to do with, so we're meat eaters in our house, and I was like, I just don't, because I was watching some things on social media, and I'm like, I just, for me, it's very important that we eat organic meat. And yes, we are privileged to be able to eat organic meat. And for me, that's something that's important for me and for my family. And I think everybody has what's important to them, and we can pick and choose what we
Yeah.
want to do or don't want to do, right? And what's in our budget and what's not in our budget, and being mindful for all of that. So I think that what you're saying is important. And I think when we're ready, and even if we're kind of dabbling and you're like, I may not be 100% ready, but I'm kind of curious, like you said before, I'd like to
That's
learn,
it. Yeah.
like what kind of straw should I be drinking out of? And is it better to drink out of stainless? And I'm just using that as an example, right? Like, is it
Yeah.
better to drink out of like the compostable ones, the ones that are out of paper, but do they have like chemicals in it that we shouldn't be ingesting versus stainless steel? Like even simple things like that. Like I remember going into your office and you had like this whole area of like all
Yeah.
these like really unique different things. I'm like, I didn't even know that existed. That's really cool. Like, so I think you have really honed in on what you're passionate and what you love. And
Yeah.
it's
What I
super
love.
cool how you've brought it all together under, one umbrella, which is Twic.
Thank you. And keeping it that way, like as I celebrate, it's like I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for people who are ready, who show up. And that's what I'm saying. It's like I use it sounds so cliche to say better together, but we've really forgot
It
that. Like
is,
there
yeah.
are people, so when you say you're privileged to be able to buy organic meat, that's true. But one of the things that drives me crazy about this whole wellness industry is how much it seems and appears to cost
Mm,
to be well, and that being well looks a certain way.
yeah.
That's not it. And so I'm also like, I'm the antidote to that. That's not what I want to be. And the thing is being well is about your nervous system as well. Being well is about your happiness. So if I'm forcing you to drink water and you feel like shit afterwards drinking that water, but that's the program. No, that's not the way it works. So
Mm.
we sort of examine and go into all these possibilities. I mean, I work one-on-one with people. Um, all the time. But it's the TWIC, which is self-guided, also is not a one size fits all program. So you speak about being meat eaters or not is not the conversation. How are you getting your protein? How is it affecting you? And so I teach something called the kind food plate. And it talks about the quality of each ingredient. Where's your salt come from? Because if your salt has hormones and microplastics in it, I don't care that you use it to activate your water. Like, let's get you the best salt that doesn't have sewage and microplastics and hormones in it and actually wasn't dynamited out of the ground. Like that's the energy, right? So you don't need a $500 grounding mat if you can take your shoes off and stand outside too,
Exactly.
but you have to learn these things. And so wellness doesn't need to
Be cost
cost.
what you're
And if we can't afford certain things and understand that also have to stop apologizing for our privilege. So you know what you want to eat, and yeah, you're privileged to do it. And every single time you don't buy what's conventional and you don't go into the quote unquote supermarket. Can't stand that's like the word super is in there that I could think that's brainwashing. But every time you don't go in there and you buy from somewhere else, you have to understand you're helping the whole collective, you're helping everybody because that's where you're putting your money. So it's not just about nourishing your family well and being privileged and being able to afford it. You're supporting a better food system for all because we have to take away that whole supply chain. So if you speak up, remember when trans fats became a thing, or I don't know, all these, whatever these things come out, when they become a thing in the media, all of a sudden every company removes it.
Mhm. Seed
So,
oils is another one where they all started removing, well, canola oil
right,
in particular, they're
right,
using sunflower and safflower, but they
right,
switched, everybody switched from canola because it was
right.
like, yeah,
Right. So we have to know these, you have to know these things. And that's what every week I teach that one lesson in empathy economics. So it's not overwhelming because last week you're learning about waffles and I break down like, here's what makes a better waffle. Here's what makes a good one. Here's where you can buy. Here's a recipe to make.
that's awesome.
Here's the waffle iron. Here are the ingredients. But then sometimes it could be something simple. It could be like honey, but it could be salt and we
Mm.
just break it down one at a time. You learn what's in your food and what's possible for you. And wellness can cost less too. It's like things that you can stop doing, and
Right.
then you
Well,
have
exactly.
budget to allocate somewhere
Exactly.
else.
Well, that's it too, right? It's like it doesn't mean that you have to spend more. Maybe you're eating less of it or whatever it is, but you're just buying better quality. And a lot of people have that philosophy is I'll buy less, but I'll just buy better quality of it,
Yeah,
right? It doesn't have
yeah,
to be volume.
yeah.
So I think and as a consumer for me, because this is what you do day in, day out, you do the search as opposed to like I remember when I started Naturally Savvy, my friends, the reason I started it was because my friends would be at the grocery store and they'd be like, okay, what should I buy? What was the brand you told me to get again? What was that product you said I
I
should
loved when you did that, when you came out with what was the book called with the coupon?
unjunk your junk food?
And
Oh,
no,
the coupon book? The Healthy
yeah,
Shop coupon book?
Healthy Shopper coupon book. That was like you were so like you were so ahead with that people couldn't possibly value how brilliant you were, you and Randy, to put that together. That's like,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Actually, I don't even know if I ever shared the story of how like we came up with that idea. I had just bought, so for all of you listening, I had a company that my business partner Randy and I started in 2000. It was called the Healthy Shopper Coupon Book, and we were the only coupon book in Canada at the time. We distributed it to like 120,000 stores across the country, and it was coupons for natural and organic products.
Paper ones, people.
Paper, exactly, like not digital.
Yeah.
And the reason why we launched that was because I had just bought my first house, and I was back in school. I went back to school to become a nutritionist in 1999, and at that time healthy products were a lot more expensive. Like today, it might be, it's much more affordable, and we have this bigger stores that you can purchase things of where it's like maybe it's the same price at par, or maybe it's 50 cents more, like
And
or
the internet, you can search on the internet.
and you can search.
Right.
Exactly. Back then you couldn't. And I remember looking at my husband and I'm like, I really want to be able to afford these products, but they're expensive. So I want to come out with like we should have coupons for them. And I had come from the couponing business. So I went to Randy and I asked her, I'm like, hey, I have an idea. Would you want to be my partner? And she's like, yeah, let's do it. And we like literally started this company with like hardly anything. We came up with a prototype and kind of the rest was history. And we did the Healthy Shopper coupon book for 18 years. And it was pretty awesome in terms of, yes, very much ahead of our time back then. And then we launched Naturally Savvy in 2007. So like I've always been in health and wellness. Like I went back to school to become a nutritionist because I was so fascinated with food and what we were eating and how was it affecting our lives, because every time I ate, I was getting gas and bloating. I didn't feel good. Kind of
Yeah.
what was like the impetus of why I started Morphus, to be honest. It
Right.
was like
Right.
another major event of like how I wasn't feeling good. I was getting all these crazy hot flashes. So it's like I feel like people, I feel now it's like back then it was we were ahead of our time, but now it's like we're at the right time. And that's kind of what I've been saying to myself a lot lately is I'm in the right place at the right time because
100%.
yeah, we're like able to
I,
catch up. But I love that you're able to I love that you're able to provide incredible information and be a source for people who want to learn more. One,
and I just want to connect what you were talking about being ahead of your time, because I think that's where our connection comes from, is that there's this mutual respect that we have for each other, because it was like, oh, you're still showing up. Like we would see each other at the same events in the same circles, like doing over and over. And other people, there's a lot of people who came and went in those times. And one of the things that I find remarkable about you that I have to say, and you, it is so rare, like you and Randy, to have two to have business partners for decades is like almost unheard of. And so the respect that you guys have for each other, despite your differences, like that's good humaning. Like that's what we need more of in the world. I don't know many people who can say they've been successfully partnered with people. There's so much breakdown, and that's just such a testament. And it's why I respect you and Randy so much and your work,
thank you.
because the energy that goes into that on a human level isn't even respected enough, because anybody can go online now and create so much content with AI. And it's like, that's empathy economics. Like look back, like what is the purpose? Why is Andrea doing this? How long have they been doing it? Like what's the story? And when you find the story behind the product, the purpose, the service, that's what you like people, that's what you got to buy. And it doesn't mean that somebody in their 20s isn't worth purchasing for because they don't have decades of experience. But what was the impetus? Like, what was their aha moment that they decided to do it? Because if the thing is to gain attention and to make $1 zillion in a year, that's not as great as, well, this happened to me. So I came up with this solution. I dug down, and I came out with this. And those are the stories. And you guys are just so unique that way. And I just think it needs to be honored and spoken about so much more in our world. We're all after longevity, but do we buy it from people who actually have that in themselves?
Oh my God, you're gonna make me cry. It's
Mm.
so like as you're saying it, and it's funny because Randy and I show up all, it's like we're business partners now 26 years, and
Yeah.
you've known us for the most part, for like all those
I'm
years.
your photographer at trade shows. I know.
Exactly. Lisa takes our pictures, our annual picture at the CHFA show every year, which by the way, like year 26,
Yeah.
crazy.
Crazy.
Um, so it's like I don't really think about it that often in terms of like I think it's incredible that Randy and I've been partners for this long, and the fact I always say we have the best story because two female business partners. I remember years ago in 2010 I met Michael Eisner, who was the
Yeah.
CEO of Disney, and he had written a book about partnerships. We were at a an event for when we were like shopping around our publisher for Unjunk Your Junk Food. So I ended up going with Simon Schuster, but we were at another publisher. And there was an event, and I met Michael, and he just put out his book. I think it's like Why Great Partnerships Succeed is the name of his book. And he was telling us how in his book, so him and I and Randy were chatting, and he was saying how he had 10 partnerships in his book, and only one of them were females. And they were a partner, like they were a couple. And I said to him, I'm like, why do you only have one out of 10 partners who are females? He's like, Andrea, it is very hard to find, like very unique. And at that point, Randy and I were together as business partners for 10 years. I'm like, oh, Michael, in your next book, you got to include Randy and I. Like
Yeah.
we've written
So
the
think of
code.
now. You better call him back now.
I probably should. I'm like, now we're 26 years in, and I'm like, we have been business partners. We have been through so much together. We have my gosh, like actually, I should do an episode just on the fact of being female
You
entrepreneurs and
please. I think it's a big deal. And I just want to bring up something that is, going to get me to be probably unpopular, but that's okay. I'm used to it. Women supporting women is so crazy. I do not understand. Women want certain way of being respected. We have to support each other. And that's one of the things that I believe it's not about competition, it's about co-opetition. And we don't need to be the same. We don't need to be competing. I I do something called the life intake, which is a one-on-one program intensive with me, right? That's great. But that's not something that I sell. I spend so much time referring people to other people, women and men, not gender specific. But we have to really support, like, just because, like, refer to someone else. Spend the time and buy Andrea's book because she poured her life into it and you need to read it, but not like I know what it feels like to write a book and put your life out there or to imagine that I've started this community. There's zero, you have to be human to join. I insist that you're a real human. You have to have a profile, same as like going to a conference.
Yeah.
Why don't people join? Why don't people support their friends that are authors? We should be supported by the people we know. We should be championing each other in all that we do as long as the intention is good. I'm not going to champion someone who's, selling Miracle Grow on the side of the street because I just am not going to. But if it's not poison and it's not hurting people, stand up for each other. That's support. So the fact that you and Randy can work together is amazing. But now it's like, where are all the women celebrating that? That's what I want to see. It's like celebrate each other, right? We have to
Mhm.
celebrate each other more, not
100%. And
compete
even
with.
and even by the way, our supplement company. Like, so here's the thing. Randy and I sell supplements. It took me just as an FYI, and you know this because you were involved, it took me 3 years of research until we launched our first product. So I am so intentional about the products that we sell, the ingredients that go into our products, the actual, like, a lot, most of them are branded ingredients, the research that goes behind it. I won't sell anything that I feel could be potentially harmful for women in this phase of life.
Right.
I remember when I told this story recently on the podcast. Like, I remember when we first started looking at co-packers, like in terms of companies that help us make the product. And I sat across from someone and he looked at me and he was like, okay, great. You're starting a supplement company. Do you want to base it on price or do you want to base it on quality? And I looked at him like,
Like,
what are you
can't
talking?
it be both? Can I do both?
I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, 95% of the people that come in here just care about the price. They don't care about the quality. And I was like, exactly. Like, I'm like, yeah, first of all, I would never. I was just talking to someone the other night about this too. I'm like, I could not go to sleep knowing if I was selling something that I wasn't 1000% behind or take myself.
That's empathy economics, though. That's what I'm saying. And so the focus is on like who's paying for that product if it's cheap? Somebody. There's a if you're
There's a
buying,
customer for everything, I
there's a
guess.
customer for everything. And to me, I really think it's time to focus on the value tag, not the price tag. Whether you're buying underwear or shoes, or apples or supplements, whatever it is,
Whatever it is.
because
And
it's
yeah,
not worth buying if it's not functional and it's not good. And that's coming up with that term health washing, right? It's your supplement sitting next to somebody else's. That theirs might be prettier, fancier, cheaper. What is it going to do for you? And the problem is products don't speak.
yeah.
I mean, they probably will soon, but they don't speak for now. So go to somebody's website, go back and look at the product and look at the spokesperson and look at the why. You're always going to make a better decision. Always.
Yeah. And
Because
have
there's a
and,
feeling.
and connect to that company. Like I always say to our customers too, like you have access to me. You're able, and
Yeah.
to my team. You're able to ask me questions. We are here. We want you to feel better. We have solutions for you. Do we have all of them? Absolutely not. But we
Yeah.
have a lot of solutions that can help you feel better. And by the way, if you're already buying supplements from big box stores or massive, humongous companies, we are two women in menopause who are trying to make a difference. So that's why,
Yeah.
like for us, it's like, and and you're right, like I'm not the best at communicating it all the time because I'm so busy like writing my book, running a company day to day, right? So I appreciate you saying that. So thank you. And like,
I said, it's a big deal. And I bring up on the breaks all the time. People are like, that is the worst website. And I always say, as somebody in marketing and business development, I can tell you in 2026 what I believe. The worse the marketing is, usually the better the product is, because the more time that they spend on the development and the product and those are the people that are struggling. And so when I see a poor website, I'm like, okay, I'm going to help
And
you.
you have to go
And
help them make it better.
that's how, yes, and that's how they end up in TWIC. And that's why I do 70, I don't know, I say 70, it could be 50 sometimes, it could be 90 of my work pro bono, because it's like you said, it's the people that actually really are doing something great. I can't scale. They're not Amazon, they're not convenient, right? Like whatever that word means, they're not in every corner store. It's harder to get. And so we need to give those people and products and services more visibility. That's what I'm here for. I know this is your podcast, but that's why I just wanted to shine a light back on that. Yes, you have a podcast, and yes, a zillion people do, but you're not getting, do you know what I mean? Like $1 million for a sponsor for your podcast. And that doesn't stop you from doing it. So you're not showing up because you're getting $1 million. So consider all of those things. There's some of the worst products sold by some of the biggest health gurus, like, and that's what I get to speak freely about in TWIC, because I don't like speaking poorly about people because it's not understood, but we can have frank conversations in this community because we understand where it's coming from. It's naming things so we avoid it, but not to badmouth, like not
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. You should
not
just
call
give
out. I say call out culture, not cancel culture. Very different.
very different. Yeah. And I also think, I agree with you. And that's why, like, you helping companies make their make their website look better, or I'm guessing these are people that are on your break that are talking and people are
Yeah.
checking what you're talking about. All right.
Yeah.
So like helping companies make them look better, because it is important to have a good looking website or a functional website or something. So, and not everybody's good at everything, right? And I think that's the important thing
Yeah.
too. So we look to people like yourself to have a community, to find people within that community that could perhaps help each other, which is really important too.
Yeah.
And that's why I say too, like, I mean, I love TWIC, I love TikTok, because I feel like I love our Facebook group, like anywhere where there is community of people.
Connection, right? It's like connection. That's like heals the whole world and it heals ourselves and the
Yeah,
whole world. We need that connection. It doesn't, that's why people vilify social media. And I'm like, yeah, or you can use it
in a
for a
good way.
great reason. And that just means you can't follow all of the junk. And yeah, they want to condition. We can, that's a whole other conversation, but we could talk about it. But I can't tell you how many people I've connected with that I absolutely adore and consider to be friends on Instagram, or people that 20 years ago I was friends with, but I didn't have daily connection, but because we're on social media, that we have that connection. Don't shun connection. Connection is good. And as you said, you have you allow people to message you. So if I said like I had a really bad reaction to this supplement before and I noticed this ingredients in that, what do you think? I'm going to actually get an answer. I don't want somebody offshore who's paid to do customer service answering a question like that. I want the human. And that's where empathy economics, again, helps you make your own best decisions. So you
Yeah.
know what you're buying at all points in time, and that there's integrity involved because there's connection.
There is. And yeah, you have a connection to me. There's a number on our bottles you can call. Like, we will never, we don't turn people away if you call. Like, you're going to get somebody on our team that's going to answer a question for you. And a lot of the time it's me, because I feel questions around the products themselves. So, and we pour our heart and soul into them, like
Yep.
literally. And these are products that I take, right? I take and Randy takes, like, they're amazing.
Yep.
So
Well,
it's
listen, the community that I built online, I have to live there. So I made it into a place that I love living in
exactly,
because that's what we
exactly.
want to do. I don't want to show like I love it. They're my friends, they're my family, and I don't mean blood family because they're not there. I mean like these are the people that I am on a journey with going forward. And when someone messages me on Instagram to ask me what's wrong with these pickles or where do I find coconut oil that doesn't have that, I send them a link now.
Mm.
I'm not going to invest in you unless you're willing to invest in yourself. And that's
Yeah.
the thing is we can have boundaries but still be accessible.
Hmm.
And that's like a huge lesson, right? And so then if someone shows up, they're going to get all of that information given to them. And I call it pay your own value, not pay what you can, because that's not it. But it's like pay your own value. Did you take something away that you otherwise would have had to pay $100 for? Do you feel like you went to therapy today? Did you just buy a new mattress for yourself and can't believe that you saved $1,000 because of, the person I introduced you to what you did? How about sharing that? Okay, saved $1,000. I can put 100 into Twic to support that. I can give 100 to this person who can't afford a mattress and I'm still up $800 and Lisa did the research on the mattress for me. There's so many ways that we can create that everybody wins situation, but we have to get out of the convenience. So we have to get out of it might not be available on Amazon. It might not be available at the supermarket. It likely isn't. Um,
But how do you get over that? For a lot of us, the convenience is important.
Oh, I have a link for that I can send you. I've
Please.
written
Oh,
extensively at
hello.
convenience. That's part of the unprogramming, right? Like that's how do we define, what is our connection and what is our relationship with all of these words and all these ways that, like, if I don't depend on that, this is all going to come crashing down. Well, maybe that needs to come crashing down. Like, I know that I not only sleep at night, I sleep so well. And not to make anyone jealous, this is meant to give you hope. I can wake up at 3:15 and go pee, and I fall
Right
right
back to
back. Oh my God. That it's still when I tell my husband in the morning, I'm like, I was awake and I fell back asleep because for decades I couldn't. So I'm just saying there's hope, but you
bed.
have to be willing there's certain things that you think you need in your life and you depend on that safety or convenience or this way or that way, that when you actually heal and grow and release and have different mindset and perspective towards things, you call in different solutions and you look back and I think, I can't believe I wiped my kids' Lysol high chair with Lysol wipes. Like, how did I even do that? Well, there's no shame or guilt in it now. That's where I was then. I
Yeah.
didn't know. This is what I know now. And I'm going to be that person to try my very best to share not fear of Lysol wipes, but this is why that is not something you ever even want in your home. And
Mm,
once you learn that, then you get to share it with other people. So that's the whole thing is, ripple it out, ripple it that good. Keep sharing it.
love it. Lisa, I mean, I love this conversation. So thank you for joining me today. How could people, we talked a lot about Twic. How could people find you? I know that you're on social media. If you can give that out, we put everything below as well. And then I highly recommend all of you go, like Lisa said, it's free. Go sign up for Twic. Like go.
Not free. No, it is free, but it is, yes. You
But
have to
free,
be
but
human.
you have to be human, a good
Yeah.
human to
Yes.
sign up, and then you could upgrade, right? Is that how it works? Like explain how it
Yeah.
works.
There's no funnel. It's you can choose packages when you go in. There's one that is access of being, I wish I could change it. The technology doesn't say, can you verify that you're not an asshole? But if that doesn't work, everybody's welcome. You do not have to give a credit card. You do not have to announce yourself. You only have to be human. You have to fill out your profile. Otherwise, I just remove. And PYOV is something that is always available, meaning if you don't ever need to upgrade if you're happy with where you are. And what I ask is if you take something away to make sure that you give back if and when you can. So it's not that's just empathy economics. Nothing's contingent on a financial investment. I want you to take stuff away and I want wellness to be accessible to everyone. I want people to understand that you don't need to buy gadgets and gadgets. You can actually depend on yourself and sleep better and smile more. Um, and there's ways forward and there's people in there too. So it's the wellnessintelligencecollective.com. But if they look up Lisa Borden or Borden Communications, you'll find all of my links. I'm on Instagram as Lisa Borden and also as My Wellness Intelligence. They're separate. I swear a lot and I just post funny things and whatever I want on my personal. And I don't advertise and sell. So people are like, where's the community? I'm like, oh, it's in my bio. But you can find me and message me if you can't. Like Andrea, I'm a real human. I'm not blocking anybody.
Yeah.
You can't promote connection if you're not willing to connect. So
I love that.
here for
Lisa,
that.
thank you so much for showing up today and for, being part of our podcast. And also, by the way, I hope people do listen to the whole podcast, and even if
I
it's
hope so
a little bit,
too.
even if they come, stop, listen, stop, come back, I hope they do because it was a really good one. And I think it's a message that we need to hear.
Two women in conversation, right? It could be anybody. And so, yeah, thank you to listen. Thank you for facilitating conversation because I don't know much, but I think that that can help us all. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed my interview with Lisa as much as I did. Lisa is amazing. She's a good friend, and I put a link to TWIC below. Her community is incredible, so supportive, and like she said, it's a safe place. So if you want to learn more about TWIC and about Lisa, definitely check her out. If you enjoyed today's interview, please share it because the more you share shows you care. And please take a moment to leave a review of our podcast, Menopause Reimagined, because when you do that, the algorithm sends it out to more people who can benefit from our incredible information. Thank you for spending the last little bit with me. I know there's a lot you could be doing, but instead you chose to spend your time with me. And for that, I'm grateful. I'll see you at the next interview. Yeah.